A hypoxic brain injury is similar to an anoxic brain injury. They're not exactly the same, but they're similar. Hypoxic means low oxygen. Hypo means low in medicine. Oxic is oxygen. Hypoxic, low oxygen. So when we have situations in which we have low oxygen injuries, these hypoxic injuries, the person should seek out a lawyer in the event that that injury is caused by somebody else's neglect, somebody else's poor choices. We see hypoxic injuries occur in situations in which the amount of oxygen getting to the brain is impaired, but not fully cut off. What I'm thinking about in particular, one type of injury that we sometimes see, or I'll call them the chemical type of injuries in which oxygen has been limited. Sometimes they can be from chemical spills, sometimes they can be from things like carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide poisoning is literally removing or limiting the amount of oxygen that a person gets. And as a result, the brain goes through very similar changes that we see in anoxic brain injury. Sometimes not, they're a little slower coming on. With a hypoxic injury, there's oftentimes better recovery, but you can still have very, very serious injuries from these chemical situations in which oxygen is limited to the brain. We see situations in which people, you will initially go through a nausea type of scenario as the body is starved for oxygen. All the alarm bells are going off to tell the person, hey, something's not right here. You need to see if there's anything you can do to make me better. So the body will start doing that sort of thing, getting dizzy because of lack of oxygen to the brain. We see that with these hypoxic injuries. Over time, hypoxic injuries will act like anoxic injuries. They will get worse and worse and worse. They'll eventually start to result in cell death. They start first at the margins, and when I say at the margins, what I mean by that is areas of the brain that are better oxygenated because they have more oxygen flow. They're going to be hurt last. Those that are on the periphery, on the very edges of the perfusion, where it gets perfused, you'll start seeing cell damage and cell death in those areas first. And of course, the longer you do it, the more cell damage you have. Again, it starts the whole downward process in which you have swelling, which increases more brain tissue death. And from then on, it's very similar to anoxic injuries. Many times, hypoxic injuries can be very serious because the person is hurt, their function is hurt, but for the person that just sees them on the street, they may not realize that person's hurt. If somebody has a bad anoxic injury over a long period of time, you're going to know it if you see them on the street. But a person with a milder hypoxic injury, they may have severe functional problems. They may have severe problems with multitasking, for instance, or inabilities to control their emotions that are caused by the brain injury. But for you and I, if we see them on the street, we think they're normal and we expect them to act like they're normal. And when they don't, they can put themselves or other people in very serious risk of injury as a result of the brain injury. It's something that they simply can't control. After the initial treatment has occurred, the initial treatment to stop the hypoxic injury, to stop the downward spiral from increased pressures and that sort of thing that we've already spoken about. After that happens, then we typically go into a rehabilitation type of situation in which we make workarounds for the person. We are recognizing that we're perhaps getting some function back over time, but most folks with these type of injuries never fully get them back. They're always going to have some issue with that injury. So we're better off making workarounds so that they can still function. Sometimes these workarounds are as simple, again, as having calendars and reminders. Sometimes they're much more significant with even having people to remind them to do things like eating. because some people simply won't eat if they don't, their ability to sense that they're hungry may be impaired, so they just don't eat. So we'll have to have folks do those sort of things for them. In the most severe and significant cases, we've had situations in which people have literally had to have full-time medical care, and in those very serious situations, sometimes there's just not much we can do other than keep them safe and keep them comfortable and make sure that their needs are met by external situations. Taking full-blown nursing home care. You can go the whole level from mild interventions to for mild workarounds to maybe having somebody that comes in a couple of hours a day to make sure that the person has what they need and they're safe, and to people that need to have somebody there 24/7 to keep them safe, to be there in case they're having epileptic seizures that are uncontrolled, so that they can intervene in a timely manner. But these hypoxic injuries, they run the whole gamut, and so the treatment for each one of them has to be individualized, and it's critical for the lawyer to know that, and it's critical for the lawyer to figure out for that particular client what interventions are going to be necessary, how much are those interventions going to cost over time, what experts do I need to be able to show that and to prove that, so that I can get full recovery for that client so that they can have a chance at a decent life. These brain injury cases, they're not cases for amateurs. They're just not. They're too important. They're situations that if you do a good job on these cases, it can be the difference between somebody living under a bridge or having a chance at a decent life. The importance of these cases simply can't be overstated. After a serious traumatic brain injury, you really need to have somebody that knows this area of the law, that knows how to prove up these cases, that has the resources to prove up these cases. If you don't, you're taking an enormous risk for no good reason.